welcome to our Oregon Ducks 2025 preview video, Chris. This is going to be a tasty one, and not because I like the taste of duck, although I really did enjoy
It is
that.
quite yummy.
It was very yummy out there in Pasadena, California, in the college football playoff in the Rose Bowl. But this is one of the better teams in the Big Ten, hands down, easily. It's one of the
Defending
better.
Big Ten champions.
Absolutely. First year in the Big Ten, the Ducks come in, they go a perfect 12-0. They win their 13th game in a row that last season, going to Indianapolis, taking down Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, and then getting rewarded for the number one overall seed in the college football playoff by getting to play Ohio State in round number two, which if still you asked Oregon, would you rather have that or would you have rather had Penn State's seeding? To a man, every Duck fan would have went, give me Penn State's.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, college football playoff, I think, is going to have that fixed, obviously, moving forward. But Oregon, our new rival, is it safe to say they're our new rival? I like it.
I think so. I would prefer them over the old rival.
I think most Ohio State fans were, given the fact that Oregon at least doesn't cheat. They might throw money around more than anybody else, but God bless them, that's legal these
So
days.
do we. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't have
we
Phil
don't have
Knight
Nike
money.
money, but
We have Nike. We have Nike money. We just don't
we
have
just
Phil
don't have
Knight
Phil
Nike
Knight Nike
money.
money. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of like the Ducks. I'm not gonna lie. I like the Ducks. Um, I think they're fun. I think that they are definitely the best team out of the four we brought in from the West Coast to bolster the Big Ten and get us on the same level as the SEC. And so, as a Big Ten fan, as a Ohio State fan, hats off. Welcome, Ducks. We're glad you're here, man. And I said it last year, and I'll say it again. We are at the beginning of what I believe will be a 10 year, a better part of a decade where I think Ohio State and Oregon are going to be back and forth, the best teams in the Big Ten. And last year proved that to be 100% true.
Right, absolutely. And you look at these teams, both have explosive rosters, both have tremendous talent, both have guys who are among the best young coaches in college football. Although I hate saying that about Dan Lanning, the guy with the most punchable face in the game. But
I guess that's
he
I guess
is
that's
he is.
what side of the side stand you're sitting on, though. I mean, obviously Duck fans love him. He's 35-6 all time as a head
Yeah, I mean,
coach.
like I said, these are two of the best young, and I say younger with Ryan Day entering now as his seventh full season. But uh, I mean, that's he's still not an old guy.
No, no.
He is by no way. I mean, he's getting seasoned, but I would not call him a seasoned vet even yet at this point.
Who's
He's not
that?
got
Ryan
Ryan Day.
Day?
He
Yeah.
doesn't have 10, 15 years in the
Well,
game yet.
Ryan Day's 46. Dan Lanning, 39.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Among the two best young coaches in the game, without doubt.
100%. Uh, and that's true when we do our college football rankings with the coaches in the offseason. Dan Lanning was very high. In fact, Dan Lanning, him and Coach Sark were the two highest that didn't have a national championship attached to their name, I believe,
Sounds
if,
right.
if I'm correct in that. So it's only a matter of time. I'm going to make two statements and as an Ohio State fan that Oregon fans are going to like. Some Ohio State fans are not going to like. It's only a matter of time before Dan Lanning wins a national championship,
I agree.
and it's only a matter of time before Oregon gets there first. I think they're going to win a national championship sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would say it's going to happen within the next 5 years, Eric.
Who wins one first? Dan Lanning or Marcus Freeman?
I don't want to say it, Eric, but I think Marcus is in a slightly better position right now. Although That being said, Notre Dame's schedule this year is not easy.
especially at the beginning.
The front four, that's front loaded. With the front four games are all fairly tough games. Um, so I think if Freeman gets past those first 4 or 5 games, he walks into the playoff. Um, Dan Lanning is going to have to earn it in the Big Ten.
And that sounds like a great segue to dive into some stats, some history, and get this interview started. So let's do that. I like that. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at the year that was for the Ducks first. So 2024, they start off kind of slow. They barely beat Idaho. They barely beat Boise State at home, although we had no idea at that point in the season how good Boise State really was. They go to Oregon State, stomp them. They open up Big Ten play on the road at the Rose Bowl, defeating UCLA. They then welcomed Michigan State to Autzen Stadium, and they won that one. That set up the big game, or the game of the year in the regular season. Undefeated Ohio State and undefeated Oregon. You all know what happened: 32-31, a 1-point win by the Ducks. Dan Lanning pulled out a great veteran move late in the game, having 12 men on the field on purpose. Hats off to him. They then beat Purdue in West Lafayette on a Friday night, 35-0. They topped Illinois, which at the time didn't feel like a big win, but after the season was over, that actually was a really good win,
Yeah.
38-9. They went into the Big House and stomped the team up north by 21, 38-17. They crushed Maryland, which everybody will this year as well. They got the Washington monkey off their back. They beat them 49-21 to go into the Big Ten championship game where they defeated Penn State 45-37, and then the Rose Bowl, a 21-41 point loss. The Vegas said that this was a 10.5 win team. Chris, you said you thought they were going to go 11-1 with their one loss being Ohio State. I actually predicted that that was going to be Ohio State's one loss last year. I was correct in my prediction. They went 12-0 in the regular season. They went
But we both
13.
made money.
We both made money off the Ducks. That's right. They went 13-1 last year overall. Dan Lanning is now 35-6 going into his fourth season as a head coach for Oregon. Autzen Stadium, very impressed, even though it's only 54,000 or somewhere around that number. That's a loud 54,000 in that stadium. Very impressed. Their all-time record is now 7-18, 5-12, and 46. And their bowl record has fallen to 17-21. And they did add a conference title to that list. They had 14 in the Pac-12. They got a 15th now, their first in the Big Ten. That was the year that was for the Ducks last year.
Yeah, an impressive season. Don't necessarily agree with how things ended up out there in Oregon against Ohio State. I thought that there was maybe some controversy surrounding the last play of the game,
But a
but it
great
is what
game
it is.
nonetheless. It was a
It was
great game.
absolutely a great game. No denying the talent, no denying the coaching savvy of Dan Lanning. And I love this because to me, this sets up, as you said, Eric, I think a great rivalry over the next decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the idea of this kind of rivalry um, where I think there is a lot of mutual respect, something that I think we've lost
100%.
from our original rivalry.
Yep. The way the Ducks fans and the Buckeye fans don't like each other, but yet they respect each other.
Yes.
That's the
That's the
way
way
that
it used to
it
be.
used to be that way. Yes. 100%.
And to me, I welcome the Ducks. I love this challenge of the Big Ten because, quite honestly, as much as I love seeing Ohio State just dominate the Big Ten for the better part of 2 decades, I love the fact that there's some real competition in there now that didn't have to cheat to do anything.
Right.
So to me, this is a welcome addition, and I'm excited for them this year as well, Eric. I think they're going to be another very good team this year.
Well, before we dive into that, at the end of this, we're going to go to our interview with Dale Bliss from the Autzen Zoo. He is the site expert at the Autzen Zoo website. Um, he is a wellspring of knowledge, my friends. This guy rattles off information, names, places, stats, dates off the top of his head like I've never seen before. This guy is fantastic. Now the visual, the video in it, the visual, his Wi-Fi kind of went in and out, and I think he was when I interviewed him, I think he was being like there's a washer or something behind him or something going off. So there's a little bit of some funky noise there, but look past that because the information he provides is fantastic, and he's definitely well known in the Oregon circles because this guy is awesome, and we're glad to bring him on. So enjoy this interview. It's a lengthy interview. It's the longest one we've had with anybody, but there's a lot to talk about in Eugene, Oregon. So enjoy this interview. Chris and I will be back after I bring on Dale, and then we will dive into our predictions for the season as well. And we are back now here at the OHIO podcast with our Oregon Ducks preview, and I am joined by the Autzen Zoo site expert, Dale. Welcome into the OHIO podcast. I know you're in enemy territory here, Dale, but I promise you it'll be friendly conversation today.
Well, it's always fun to talk college football with practice starting today. I appreciate you having me on. And by the way, congratulations on your ninth national title. We're still waiting for our first one.
It's gonna
Maybe
come.
you'll, I hope so.
Well, I tell you this, Dale. I think you might be interested to find out. Things are so the tension is so bad right now between Ohio State and the school up north, as we call them, the team up north. That there's a large contingent of our fan base who have volunteered Oregon to be our new rival. What do you guys think about that?
It's off to a great start. I mean, the Ducks won a close one during the season and got thoroughly thumped in the Rose Bowl. So, and going back to 2022, they won a game at the Horseshoe. But I think the lifetime series is something like 2-8 in Ohio State's favor. It might even be 2-9. So it would certainly be an honor to be considered at any level Ohio State's rival. I mean, it's a great program with a great tradition. I think the Ducks have got to win a few more before they're really considered a rival. But it was the game in October was an incredible college football game. I mean, it had twists and turns, great plays, surprises, uh, controversial calls. It pretty much had everything you could want in a college football game.
It
The
did.
game, the game in January, that was pretty one-sided.
Well, I could I mean, I'm gonna be biased here and say I enjoyed the latter a little bit more than the first, but it was a great game, and I think that Oregon and Ohio State are off to a great start as conference foes now. So welcome to the Big Ten, and congratulations on winning the conference in year number one. I mean obviously I know you'd want the Natty more than the conference championship, but no one can take you that away from you.
That was pretty good. I mean, to go in your first year in the league and win 13 games and beat, they beat in the regular season, they beat Michigan, Ohio State, and then Penn State in the championship game. That's only happened like once before, I think, when Michigan State did it way back when. So, you know, Duck fans felt pretty good about that. Obviously, there's no way to feel very good about the Rose Bowl, but on the whole, to go in and win 13 games and win a conference title in your first year in the Big Ten, that's something to begin with. in a program that's trying to grow and reach that top level. Certainly, we're not there yet. That was a start. And overall, Eric, the Oregon sports program won 8 conference titles in that first year, including baseball and softball. So, that was exciting for Duck fans to be competitive in the conference, because going in, that was the question: is Oregon ready for the Big Ten? Well, clearly they are, and obviously to stay competitive, you've got to get better. But that was a good start.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. So let's start here. Obviously, the Rose Bowl was a disappointment, was a letdown for Oregon Ducks fans. But going into the off season, where's the pulse of this fan base at right now? Are they itching to get back into it here and kind of, they've been a lot quieter this off season, at least on social media. And I'm not so sure that that's not a good thing for the team too, because there was a lot of pressure on that team. They performed well, but maybe a little bit quieter is the way to go this season.
Dan Letting told one of the writers, "I don't mind being the silent assassin this year." And you're
Mm.
right. I mean, all of the preseason talk is about the Buckeyes and Penn State. Penn State, because they have, an all senior backfield coming back and some good players on defense, they're going to be a very strong team. Ohio State, of course, I think averages like a number 2 recruiting class over the last 5 cycles. So even though they lost some great players, I think a total of 15 to the NFL, there's a lot of talent left, including the 2 best players in college football in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. So, yeah, Oregon's kind of in that third position, and that's not a bad place to be. I think Duck fans are quietly optimistic. This is an interesting year in college football because it's the season of great roster turnover. Eric, for 2 years, we've had the COVID bubble and all these fifth and sixth year players, quarterbacks like Cam Ward and Quinn Ewers, and Dylan Gabriel that have been there forever. And now all of a sudden there are 5 or 6 teams in the conference that have a very talented guy, but a guy with not a lot of games under his belt. Julian Sands, one of those guys, very good player, a 5-star recruit. Same thing with Bryce Underwood for that team up north. And the Ducks guy, Dante Moore. I mean, he played 5 games, started 5 games as a true freshman, but he's really a little bit untested as far as being the starter, being the man, and competing at a whiteout game in Happy Valley. Nobody knows how these guys are going to handle the pressure. Eric, your old offensive coordinator, our old coach, Chip Kelly, used to like to say, a quarterback is like a tea bag. You don't know what you got till you put him in hot water. Well, these guys, I mean, Julian Sands going to be in hot water playing Texas in game number 1. Dante Moore is going to be in hot water in Beaver Stadium on September 27th. And it goes on down the line. These guys will be tested. We kind of know what Luke Altmaier and Drew Aller and some of the veteran quarterbacks can do, but there's some unknown quantities with a lot of talent around the league.
Yeah, there is, but there's again a ton of talent around your quarterback, around the roster, and I want to get there in just a minute. But I do have one more question for you, and this might be a little bit more Ohio State centered, but you would know. So obviously Chip Kelly, we had him for 1 year. He was at UCLA before he came to Ohio State after his stint in the NFL. What do Ducks fans think of Chip Kelly currently?
Honestly, there's a great fondness for Chip because he elevated the Oregon program to a place it had never been. He ran a really exciting up-tempo offense, and has the best percentage record in Oregon history, something like 46-7, right around there. So he was great as a head coach. He left kind of unexpectedly to go to the NFL, but the affection for him has been pretty constant. And any time he's come back, whether it was at UCLA or at Ohio State, he'd get way more cheers than boos. And there was a lot of respect for his ability to innovate. I think he's in his natural role as an offensive coordinator. I don't think he really likes recruiting or being a head coach or dealing with boosters. He wants to tinker. He wants to study field. He wants to relate to the guys at practice and groom a quarterback. And whether it's with the Raiders or with his stint with the Buckeyes last year, man, that dude was on fire. He totally out schemed the Ducks in the Rose Bowl. I look at that highlight film and I see 5 to 8 minutes of guys just being wide open for big plays. And some of that obviously is the talent on that roster. And a certain amount of it is just the fact that Chip Kelly is a wizard. He knows the game. He knows the game as well as anybody.
Yeah. Now there's another coaching crossover here between the Ducks and Ohio State, and that's Coach Lachlan, the running backs coach at Ohio State. And there's this interesting story that has continued to rear its head where Oregon has sued him over some kind of contract dispute. Locke has been zipped about it with his, he's not said anything to the media about it, nothing. Ohio State hasn't said anything. What's up with that, and what's going on as far as Oregon with that contract dispute? Is this kind of sour grapes, maybe a little bit, or just is there really something there that I'm unaware of?
My understanding is, and I'm far from a lawyer, but my understanding is that he had signed a contract with Oregon before taking the deal with Ohio State. That was a great opportunity for him. I mean, getting to coach those guys and run, be a part of that offense. Travion Harrison. Forgive me, what's the other running backs game? It's slipping
Quinshawn
my mind.
Judkins, yeah, Quinshawn
Great
Judkins,
player.
yeah.
I mean, Coach Locke, I always liked him when he was here. I had a lot of respect for the way he taught the position, the way he emphasized ball security, the way he instilled in his guys the idea of the first guy's not going to bring you down. So as a coach, I've always admired him. Contact disputes are, that's lawyer stuff. Hopefully they'll work it out and come to a settlement as to the buyout and so forth. But all I can say about him as a coach is that he's a very dedicated, hardworking guy, and I have no negatives for him whatsoever. It's just one of those contract things. It's a game, but it's also a business. And in this environment, everybody's got to count their money a little more carefully because they've got to fund the volleyball team and send the track team to Rutgers and so forth. So it's a tough deal. $400,000 is a lot of money, even in college football.
Sure. One more coach question, and then I promise we'll get to the roster next. Um, Dan Lanning, hot. He was a hot commodity. Alabama wanted him, and he stayed out there in Eugene, Oregon. What do you think Oregon has in Dan Lanning future wise, and what is one thing you think he might need to work on as a head coach?
First question first, I think what they have in him is a guy who's young, dynamic, energetic, relentless. He's very authentic. He relates well to players. There's one thing that he probably still has to work on a little bit is game management and game decisions. When you get in the fourth quarter and it's 4th and 2 on your own 38, with 5 minutes to play, what do? Do you trust your defense? Do you go for it? And do you have a play ready to make that call work? His first and second year, he kind of got out coached a little bit by Kalen DeBoer at Washington. And, Locke do some self scouting and self evaluation. And to his credit, Lanning is an intelligent enough guy that he did exactly that. He's been as critical and focused on improving himself as he is on, working on his players. And I give him a lot of credit for that. I love the fact that he's in Oregon for the long haul. I think any program does better if you have continuity in coaches. One of the reasons why the Buckeyes have been so good for so long is, you look back to the mid 1990s, what have they had? 3 or 4 coaches? And they all did a great job and passed it on to a guy who was a top notch guy. You've got to have that. You have to have some continuity. Oregon went through a period in the late 2000 teens where they went through, 3 coaches in 5 years, and that was painful. Justin Herbert had 3 different coaches in the time he was here, and it really kind of held him back a little bit as a college player. Although he won a Rose Bowl in his senior year, continuity is super important. Dan Lanning has said the grass is damn green in Eugene. So, he's here, he's happy to be here, and he's committed to be here, and he's turned down some offers from some really high profile schools.
That Phil Knight money's pretty green too, isn't it?
It definitely is. They're paying him well.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's break down Oregon's projected starting lineup. We'll start on the offense first, since you brought up Dante Moore, the former UCLA quarterback, former Chip Kelly recruited quarterback who transferred to Oregon, set out a year last year as the backup. He's your starting quarterback, obviously. Let's look at running back, however. You've got Noah Winnington, and you got Micah Hughes. Micah Hughes is a transfer who transferred in to Oregon. From Tulane, he was Tulane's big running back, has over 2,700 yards and 30 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. Big time running back, obviously trying to go to Oregon to boost his draft status going into next season. Is that the running back room there?
It is. It's a deep running back room. Some of the guys behind him have, 4-star talent and potential and have looked good in their spots. The thing with Mackay Hughes is, in addition to rushing for over 2,700 yards, Eric, 1,932 of those yards were after contact. So he's a guy with great balance, breaks tackles, has a little bit of explosion. He had um, 7 runs of over 30 yards last year. He's not a guy who can get you 60 or 80, but he can give you 30, 40, or 50. And he gets the most out of every run. He's a very tough runner. Another great thing, passing game. He really sticks in there and will hit a blitzing linebacker and and protect his quarterback. And that's important when you've got a young quarterback who may not be quite as good at recognizing the blitz as Dylan Gabriel or Bo Nix were. So Hughes has a lot of positive. Noah Whittington looked really good as a young player. Got injured in the 5th game of 2023. Came back last year as a part-time runner and rushed for about 500 yards. He looks like he's getting back his burst. He had a 100-yard kickoff return against Boise State. He trucked an Illinois defensive back at the goal line last year. I mean, just blasted him. And those 2 plays in particular stick out in my mind as evidence of Whittington starting to feel it, starting to feel confidence in the rebuilt knee, and starting to uh, feel confidence in his speed and power. So he'll push Hughes for those carries, and both of them want to be the workhorse, obviously. They have a third guy named Dink Riggs. He's from the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. About 6'2", 215 pounds. Good balance of speed and power. And in his spot duty, he's looked good. So I think he'll get a few chances to touch the ball. One thing that's really important for the Oregon roster as a whole, they have 4 manageable games to start the season. So they really need to exercise some game control and get a look at some of these twos and threes, find out what they can do because it's a young roster. And with a 16 game season, you may need those guys down the road.
When you think Oregon, you think offense, you think wide receivers. At least that's what I do. I think dynamic wide receiver play, and according to our lads, they've got Kyler Casper and at the X. They got Gary Bryant Jr. at the Y or F, whatever that whatever that means, I guess, flanker, and then Decorian Moore is a freshman, and that's who they're penciled in as the Z. However, you also got a transfer in Malik Benson that could possibly contribute as well. And I'm assuming that there's obviously some more depth there. Did I get that right?
You did, Eric. The receiver position is wide open for the Ducks this year and a bit of a question mark. Over the summer, their best returning receiver, um, Stewart, Evan Stewart, got hurt. He tore his patellar tendon, so he's out for the year, probably. It just depends on the rehab with that type of injury. It's anywhere from 3 to 12 months. So he's either going to be a late addition or maybe rehab and look to next season. But he's a big loss. He's a former five-star recruit from Frisco, Texas, a transfer from Texas A&M the year before. And he's dynamic. Never really put it together, but has 1,000-yard receiver talent. So losing him was a blow. Now it's up to new wide receiver coach Ross Douglas to kind of put together an ensemble. He's got some guys with some potential and some history, but nobody has really emerged as a go-to guy. Decorian Moore is a tremendous talent, five-star recruit, number one receiver in the country last year. If you look at his high school film, he's a 1,700 yard, 18 touchdown type of guy in high school, about 6 foot tall, 170. So the question is, how is he going to hold up to the college game? How quickly will he adjust? He's drawn some comparisons to Ryan Williams in Alabama, and that he's shifty, he's got speed and elusiveness, great body control, but you just don't know because he hasn't played in a college game yet. They're really counting on him to break through and be their most effective freshman. But we'll just have to see if he puts it together. Benson, as you mentioned, is a 10-4 sprinter. So he's got tremendous speed, part-time player at Alabama and then Florida State. 20, 25 catches a year. They need somebody, whether it's him or Gary Bryant or Casper or a couple of five-star guys, Jeremiah McClellan and Jurion Dickey. Uh, haven't really played much to this point, but they were highly touted coming out of high school. And then uh, Gary Bryant Jr., of course, as a as a repeat freshman at USC, he had about 37 catches for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. So, he's got the maturity and the leadership and the talent to be a number one or number two guy, but he's had trouble staying healthy. So, really, Ross Douglas, a new receiver coach, did a great job with the cast that he had at Syracuse and turned that into the most productive passing attack in the country. They had over 4,000 yards of passing last year, and it was all just journeyman guys that he developed. So the hope is that maybe he can find that at Oregon, you know, match up the speed and talent and savvy and the guys he has and turn them into effective unit. One thing that they will do is lean very heavily on tight end Kenyon Sadiq. Had 2 touchdown catches in the Pac. Excuse me. Oh boy, I slipped there. The Big Ten, the Big Ten championship game. He had 2 touchdown catches. He he's been clocked on the GPS at near 23 miles an hour at 6'3", 250. Very dynamic. High school basketball player. Uh, track champ, incredibly athletic tight end. But again, he hasn't had this much on his shoulders to this point. He's taking over for Terrence Ferguson, who's now in the NFL for the Rams.
All right, let's talk offensive line. Thank you for that breakdown on the receivers and tight end position. Um, I, I guess this might be where I have the most concern for Oregon this year. Is my concern correct, or am I off balance there?
Well, Duck fans are optimistic. I mean, Duck fans kind of put the O in optimistic, but you're right. It's a rebuilt offensive line. They sent 4 starters to the NFL. Josh Connolly to the first round, but they brought in 3 transfers who were very highly touted. 3 of the best offensive linemen available on the transfer portal. Isaiah World, the new left tackle, 6'8", 309. He's getting grades and projections that say he has the potential to be a first round draft pick this year. Didn't I think he had a passing grade last year from PFF of something like 83 for the season. Very strong offensive tackle, just prototypical in terms of his build. You know, big wingspan, good size, good feet, a former basketball player. So they're pretty confident about him at the left tackle spot. They've got a veteran returning at center who's a Remington Award candidate, and Iapani Lalaulu. He started every game last year. Uh, of course, as a center, he makes the line calls, and the hope is that he'll be able to create some leadership and cohesion for a group that is new, first time working together. Emmanuel Pregnon, the new left guard, transfer from USC, didn't allow a sack last season. Lalaulu didn't allow a sack last season. At right tackle, they have Alec Harkey from Texas State, 6'6", 335 pounds. He's a big dude. He can move people around. They feel good about him. Then they have 2 veteran guards in Matthew Bedford and Dave Iuli. Both have started games. Bedford was a 2-year starter at Indiana before transferring to Oregon. One of the things about him is that he started at 3 different positions along the offensive line. It's great to have a guy like that in the 6th spot who's kind of a Swiss Army knife,
Mm-hmm.
and that should really help them solidify things. As I said before, they got those 4 games at the start of the year to kind of gel, get their communication down. But that's one thing everyone will be looking at really closely is how effective is this offensive line really going to be? Lots of potential there, good reputations, but game 1 against Montana State is the first time they've played together.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball, and we'll start up front because I have zero qualms about the defensive line, and neither does anybody else from what I hear and talk. It sounds like the Oregon defensive line is every bit as good as they were a year ago, and maybe even better. And it all begins with Mateo Ugale. I'm gonna butcher it. I'm just not even gonna
Ui
try.
Ungalele.
Yuli Ungalele. Thank you.
Uyangalele. Yeah, I had to Google that and listen to it 52 times before I ever came close to pronouncing it right. Most of the time, I just call him Mateo U. But but
There
he,
you go.
but he's a great player. He had 10.5 sacks last year. Had a sack or at least a half sack in 9 straight games. You know, 6'6", 275 pounds, and gained 10 pounds of muscle over the summer. Really dynamic, a likely early draft pick in the NFL next year. Just a warrior and very athletic. In the game against Wisconsin last year, he had a pick in the fourth quarter, batted down a couple passes, covered a receiver in the corner of the end zone, and he had a sack. I mean, he is just so smart and versatile as a football player. On the other side, they've got Tatum Tuioti, who is line coach Tony Tuioti's son. But if his name were Tatum Jones, he'd still be starting because he's just a smart, technically sound football player. He had 5.5 sacks last year. The big question for the offensive line is they've got to replace two guys in the middle that went early in the NFL draft, and Derek Harmon, who went in the first round, and Jamari Caldwell, who I believe went in the third. But those guys were gap pluggers, run stuffers, disruptors. Uh, Harmon, in particular, had 55 quarterback pressures last year, the most in the FBS. Just phenomenal. I mean, he was just a monster in the middle, very consistent from game to game. And in that role this year, they have Bear Alexander, a 4-star transfer from USC and originally from Georgia. He's from Terrell, Texas. And Alexander's got the body type. He's 6'3", 315, strong and athletic, but he's never put it together. His best season, he had 47 tackles and 1.5 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss at USC in 2023. Last year, he elected to sit out because he felt he wasn't getting playing time, wasn't going to be used in the right way, and the USC defense transferred to Oregon in December. So they feel really good about Alexander's potential. He's looked good in the spring. They're saying good things about his work habits and the way he's fit in with the team. But man, the production that he's being asked to produce, being asked to replace, is pretty imposing. And the other inside guy that they're going to rely on a lot is Amari Washington. He's 6'3", 220, big, strong guy. Has looked good in part-time duty, but last season he was playing behind two NFL players. So this is his first time to be called upon as the starter. They have good depth behind those guys, and particularly in the outside rushers. Elijah Rushing and Zadavian Sims are both 4-star guys with a lot of twitch. In the freshman class, there's Nasir Wyatt, who may turn out to be a star of the future. Very, very explosive. So it's a good line, and they get high grades from PFF and so forth, but there's a little uncertainty in the middle. They've got to show that they can do the job.
All right, let's move back to the linebacker position now, and give me a quick rundown of what you got there.
I like how you said quick. I tend to ramble on.
No, you're
Uh,
good.
Bryce Betcher at one inside linebacker spot, Burlsworth Award winner last year for the most valuable defensive player who started his career as a walk-on. Uh, had 94 tackles for the Ducks in the middle last year, was a gold glove baseball player for the Oregon Duck baseball team, and walked on to the football team because he missed it. He was a high school safety and quarterback. 185 pounds when he came to Oregon. Now he's a 235-pound inside linebacker all over the field, tremendous passion and desire. But the thing that's missing, Eric, is they've got to find a running mate for him. You know, linebackers best come in pairs. You need two guys in the middle, especially with a 4-2-5 base defense. Devin Jackson has played a fair amount. He's a junior from Nebraska, ran a 10.54 100 meters as a high school senior, Nebraska state champion, which is phenomenal for a linebacker. But the thing that never seen from him is consistency about making his reads, staying in the play, staying healthy. So he's starting fall camp or August camp, as I like to call it, because 88 degrees outside. I don't know how you
Right.
can call it fall camp, but he's starting that kind of limited. That he's probably going to be held out of contact for the first few days or maybe week. And so that's a bit of a concern. Behind him, there are three redshirt freshmen, all 4 stars, but none of them have played very much. Braden Platt, Kamar Mathudi, and Dylan Williams. Good talent, no experience.
All right, let's wrap it up with the secondary here on the defense. You can start corners or safeties first. It doesn't matter to me, but give me your idea of where the Ducks are looking at in the backside of that defense.
The biggest addition is safety Dylan Thieneman from Purdue.
Know him
Two,
well, and how you guys ever stole him from Purdue? He is a third brother of the Thieneman brothers, and they all played at Purdue, and he left. Man, I tell you, that's a steal. That's a steal.
and, and their father was a Purdue grad. And Dylan is an engineering major with a 4.0 GPA. You know, so Purdue was his home. Purdue was, you know, his family legacy, but he wanted an opportunity to play for a shot at the NFL, to play for a winner, to play on, in a competitive environment. 210 tackles in 2 seasons at Purdue, 6 interceptions as a freshman. And he is one of those guys who is always in the film room, always in the weight room, a student of the game, a coach on the field, that type of character. So they're going to lean on him a lot as a leader because the rest of the secondary skews a little young. Tremendous talent back there. They added 2 freshmen in uh, Naeem Orford and Trey McNutt. They're super high on. A bunch of young guys. Jaleel Florence is back from injury. He's their best cover corner. They got Jaden Kennedy from Ole Miss and Theron Johnson from Northwestern. They're both former all league players. So they're 2 guys the Ducks are going to rely on, along with Thieneman, to kind of set the pace and bring these young guys along because there's loads of talent. There's just, again, a shortage of experience. So those guys are going to have to learn on the fly and show they can make plays and limit their mistakes.
Excellent. Thank you for that breakdown, Dale, of Oregon defensively. Um, this is a good football team, man. And let's dive into the schedule here and see if we can't come up with a floor and ceiling this year for the Ducks. I have a feeling it's going to be a very high ceiling here. So, you mentioned it over and over again. The first 4 games: Montana State. September 6th, you get Oklahoma State. September 13th, you're at Northwestern. That's going to be on Lake Michigan in their makeshift stadium while they finish the new stadium that they're building. September 20th against Oregon State. Let's take those 4 first because we'll leave Penn State for its own section. Obviously, you got right the Civil War, and that what it's called with Oregon State, and that the moniker that it's given, the nickname. Um,
It is.
yeah. So kind of break those 4 games down for me. What's the thought process there for the Ducks?
Well, Eric, they're going to be favored by a couple of touchdowns in each one of those games. They're all games that they should win. Dan Lanning is 25-0 against teams not rated in the top 25. So he's done a very good time over his tenure of beating the teams he's supposed to beat, having his team prepared for every opponent, like you can get beat if you're not paying attention. Montana State, FCS runner up last year. That's a very good program. Obviously, they're giving away some size and roster numbers to the Ducks. Oklahoma State, 3-9 last year, winless in the Big 12. They're rebuilding. The Ducks should be able to handle that game. Obviously, they've got to be on point. Northwestern, that's a weird one. That first road trip coming early in the year in as you said, Eric, a makeshift stadium that holds about 18,000 people. So they're going to have to bring their own juice to that game. And being a first road trip, they're going to have to get ready for, the change. It's a 9 a.m. kick. Uh, in Pacific time, so that there's another adjustment they'll have to make. Uh, Oregon State, the rivalry game. The Beavers are 5-7 last year. They have a new quarterback this year. I think a kid they got from Duke. So I haven't really studied them in depth, but they don't have the talent that Oregon does. The Ducks should win that game handily if their minds are right.
All right, let's talk the big one, man. A game that Ohio State fans know well. Penn State on the road at night. It's called a whiteout. I would say, imagine Autzen Stadium at night when Ohio State walked in. I wasn't there, but I've heard many of fans who were say that it was one of the most electric environments they'd ever been to, one of the loudest environments they'd ever been to. The players talked about how the sound was very different from anything they had played in all year. Um, Beaver Stadium at night in a whiteout is like that. So I don't think Oregon's going to be caught off guard by the sound. They're used to playing in that at home for big games. But it is a little bit different. It is a little bit intimidating. Every former Buckeye I've ever spoke to, when you ask them what's the greatest road game you ever played in, they all say it was the whiteout at Penn State. It was the number one road game we'd ever played in. So it's going to be a challenge for Oregon. It's going to be no doubt the game of the day. Up to that point, outside of Ohio State, Texas, probably the game of the year in college football. Penn State's coming in ranked number one. They have all the returning talent, but the Ducks beat them pretty handily in the Big Ten championship. And we have a saying here on the OHIO podcast, and feel free to use this, Dale, if you like. I want as many people using this as possible. At some point, James Franklin will James Franklin himself. It might happen on September 27th. At some point, he does something boneheaded to cause Penn State to lose the game. And I can't tell you how many times Penn State has had Ohio State on the ropes, and he's let us go because of a coaching decision. I feel like I feel like Oregon can go into this game and can win this thing. I really do.
We'll see. I hope so. It's going to be on NBC, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. Eric, over the summer, I've watched 4 or 5 different clips of the whiteout experience, that iconic game they had with Auburn a few years ago. And there's just something about it, when you have all those fans going, whoa, we are Penn State in unison, 106,000 of them. I mean, it is one of the most electric atmospheres in college football. It's right up there with Enter Sandman or any of the rest of them. And it's going to be a test for the Ducks. Last year, Dan Lanning did a terrific job of preparing his team for some of the big game atmospheres in the Big Ten. They have a video series they do through the Oregon Athletic Office. It's called Ducks versus Them, which is a recap of the game and kind of an inside look from the meeting rooms and the sidelines and the preparation going into the week. And Lanning had a very specific plan for both. His parents were teachers, and he is at his heart a teacher. So he had a very specific plan for educating his guys about what it was going to be like in the big house or during jump around. And in both of those cases, he turned around the energy of the stadium and got his guys to embrace it, to not let it intimidate them, but let them inspire them. He used the illustration of Pavlov's dogs, and when you hear that song, it's time to turn it up. It's
Hmm.
time to get in gear. And there was at the jump around game, they were struggling on the road. It was late in the year. They were a little beat up. They were down by a touchdown, start of the fourth quarter, and coming out of jump around, it was 4th and 6. Uh, it might have been 4th and 9. Anyway, it was a do or die play, and they went for it. Dylan Gabriel rolled to his left, threw a bullet to the chest of Terrence Ferguson for the first down. They went down and scored to tie the game and went on to win it. But the preparation and the detail they went into preparing for that environment is something they'll try to do with Penn State. And the bigger part of that challenge is that the Nittany Lions are just good this year. I mean, they've got two great running backs in Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, a senior starter at quarterback. They brought in three transfer receivers. They have four returning starters on the offensive line. Very solid defense with Jim Knowles as their new coordinator, Danny Dennis Sutton at edge rusher, and Amari Campbell they brought in to play linebacker. Zane Durant, their defensive tackles, one of the best in the Big Ten, and AJ Harris in the secondary is a future NFL player. So there's a core of experience and talents on that Penn State team. The other thing is, that 8 point loss to Oregon in the Big Ten championship is something they will use as motivation. So they're going to be ready too. That's going to be an emotional, physical, difficult football game. Speaking as an Oregon fan, I'll just admit I hope Coach Franklin makes a big mistake, but I'm not counting on it.
You can count on it. I don't. Penn State fans don't like me. It's okay. It's all right. You have your first bye on October 4th, and then the next fan base that really doesn't like me is Indiana. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about a group of fans who showed zero humility? It's the Indiana Hoosier fans. I think they're going to get a big old dose of humble pie in 2025. I still think they're going to be good. I just don't think the schedule lines up for them like it did in 2024, where they played only one team with a winning record during the regular season, not named Ohio State. So, um, I think Indiana is going to get a rude awakening in Autzen. You guys got to travel across the country to Piscataway, New Jersey for, I believe that's a night kick there for in Piscataway. Not an easy place to play at night. It's an odd place, but if you get out ahead early, usually Rutgers will fold pretty quickly. I foresee that happening. And then an interesting game, Wisconsin comes to Autzen on October 25th, and when you guys went to Madison last year, they gave you a doggone good scare.
They did.
Yeah, and as you, I think Oregon found out that Madison, Wisconsin jump around is legit. That is a tough place to go. Ohio State has to go there this year as well. Um, I look at those three games, and again, I think they're similar to your first four, except they're better teams.
Yeah,
You agree with that?
I do. Indiana, I'm looking at, and I'm thinking they're maybe an 8-4 team this year. I mean, they have that ridiculous non-conference schedule, which they seem to. Kurt Signetti seems to take pride in scheduling. Three of the most pathetic games he can come up with to start the season. But they brought in Fernando Mendoza, who we remember from the Big Ten days. Excuse me, the Pac-12 days. He's a really solid quarterback. I think he'll be very effective in that RPO offense. Threw for 3,000 yards at Cal and with 16 touchdowns. I think he'll thrive, but their schedule is way less forgiving this year. Rutgers and Wisconsin, I feel like those are two games they can win. Obviously, you got to pay attention. The November part of the schedule is tough. They have that road trip to Iowa.
Yeah.
Always
Let's
Kinnick's.
let's let's talk about that because
Yeah,
Kinnick Stadium, wash, rinse, repeat Madison, Wisconsin with Kinnick Stadium, Iowa City. That place at night is a different animal. Ohio State went in there, a top 10 team in the country, and walked out with a 20 something loss to an unranked Iowa team at one time. Plus, you got to hand it to Iowa. They have one of the best new traditions in all of college football with the wave between the first and second quarter. I think that is absolutely something that Iowa fans are going to enjoy and appreciate about that. But that is going to be a tough game. And then a short turnaround because Friday, At home, Minnesota. You get PJ Fleck, famously known for coaching without socks. We make fun of him for that here in the Big Ten. He's an interesting guy, but he gets every ounce out of his football teams. PJ Fleck does, and that's not going to be an easy game as well. And then you got the two that you're familiar with: USC at home and then at Washington on November 29th to finish off the regular season. Break that section of 4 games down for me. You were right, Dale. That's not easy 4 game stretch there.
The games they remember are played in November.
Nice.
I'm looking at that schedule, and to play at Kinnick Stadium, at night, and then turn around in 6 days on a short week, play a Minnesota team that'll be very highly motivated. Both those teams have tough defenses, and the Minnesota will be coming off a bye. So, all the advantages in terms of preparation and rest, go with the Gophers. So you know, or that'll be a challenge for the Ducks to they'll have to transition really quickly. Win or lose in Iowa, they've got to turn around and be ready for a Friday night game. And Friday night games are always a little weird, you know. They have their own rhythm, and it's a little tough getting into it. Iowa, of course, has always had that tough physical defense. Their fans are really excited about Mark Gronowski, the quarterback they got from the FCS rank, two-time
Mm-hmm.
FCS champion, great dual threat player. My question about him, my understanding is that he missed spring practice with a shoulder injury, repairing his shoulder. So, for a guy coming in to transfer, missing out on, those 4 weeks of practice, that's pretty critical. It'll really be interesting to see how he adjusts and adapts and hits the ground running for the Hawkeyes. USC and Washington both will be super motivated for the Ducks. Both are on the rise as far as programs. SC was 7-6 last year in their first year in the conference. Washington was 6-7. They both have the luxury of a dynamic returning quarterback. Jaden Maeva for the Trojans, and Damon Williams for the Huskies. Both those guys, really good passers. Williams is super mobile, a threat to run or pass, and he has two great weapons in Jonah Coleman, his lead running back, and their lead wide receiver, whose name just went out of my head. I can't remember him, but he's a really good player. Um, so they have a three-headed monster on offense. Big question for the Huskies is how well that patchwork, reworked offensive line comes together. Jed Fish brought in 18 players for the offensive line, trying to rebuild that unit, and that'll be a critical thing for them. So yeah, it's the November schedule is tough, physical, and competitive, and so it'll be a test of depth. And one of the things that the Buckeyes were able to do better than anybody in college football last year was peak at the right time and get better as the season went on. They thumped Tennessee, they thumped us, and then they turned around and thumped Texas and Notre Dame. And that was a case of just a senior laden team with great leadership coming together at the right time and just playing a little angry. And that's kind of what you have to do. In November, you sort of have to suck it up. And it'll be interesting to see which way Oregon's season goes.
Yeah. All right. It's time to put a floor and ceiling on this thing. I think we can both agree 12-0 is the ceiling here. I mean, that is the absolute, all things go right. That's the ceiling. That's the roster. That's the coaching staff. They did it last year. There's no reason to think they can't do it again this year. But what happens if some things don't go the Ducks' way? What is the floor for this team, in your opinion?
Honestly, Eric, probably 8-4. Big question. First big question, of course, is a quarterback. You know, Dante Moore has gone through the Will Stein celebrity quarterback rehab for a year, showed a lot of maturity in deciding to do that, to learn behind a veteran like Dylan Gabriel and kind of reset himself as a college quarterback. He was a 5-star talent in the 2024 class, excuse me, the 2023 class. He was the number 3 quarterback in the country behind DJ Lagway and Nico Iamaleava. So, there's plenty of talent there. It's can he put it together? How will his decision making be? That's a huge question for the Duck. Second question for them would be the offensive line and how quickly they gel as a unit. Um, and then the secondary would be the third. So 8-4 is probably the floor. I'm not going to point to specific games, but they're, obviously Penn State, Iowa, Minnesota, USC, and Washington are the 5 most competitive games on the schedule coming out the gate. I, I don't expect them to be 12-0. I don't expect them to be 8-4. Uh, if they had a 10-2 season and made the playoffs and were playing their best football at the end of the year, that would be a successful year.
That sounds like Ohio State, man. That's exactly what I'm telling the Buckeye fans we need to worry about. 10-2, get a seat in the playoffs and see what happens. Yeah, we are, there are a lot of teams not named Penn State or Clemson this year who are all in similar situations, breaking in new quarterbacks, surrounded by great talent with some question marks with traditional success. Um,
Yeah, Alabama, Texas, Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, Michigan. It's all over the country.
Well, we don't mention them here though. They
I'm
get.
sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, Dale, I got just two more questions in closing. You've been a wealth of knowledge, my friend. I am seriously glad that we made contact with one another. There is a rumor that's floating around, at least it's in Ohio State circles, that Phil Knight has a blank check for this program, that he wants to see a national championship before he graces his presence at the pearly gates. Is that true?
That's a great question, Eric. I wish I knew the answer. All I can go by is the evidence of what I see, where they're bidding for a lot of great players in the 2026 class. They've landed their share. So far, they have a class 15 recruits that ranks number 11 in the country. We'll know for sure. The answer will be revealed to your question and many others in the next 3 days because Anthony Tank Jones, 5-star edge rusher from Mobile, Alabama, announces tomorrow on the Pat McAfee show, and he's down to a final 3 of Oregon, Alabama, and Texas A&M. 2 weeks ago, he looked like a lock for the Crimson Tide, but the buzz and some of the prediction machine noise has him maybe choosing the Ducks tomorrow. And if he does, well, that's a 5-star talent. He's something like the number 20 recruit in the class, number 4 edge rusher. If they land him, it's beginning to look like, yes, the checkbooks, the NIL money, it's been opened up to a very high degree. Immediately after that, on August the 2nd, Deuce Gerald's, a defensive tackle from Suwanee, Georgia. I think that's how you say that. Really quick Tasmanian devil type of player. Very, beats people off the line with combinations of moves. Sometimes he looks like an MMA fighter. He's so, you know, focused and quick off the line. He's a high 4-star, about number 95 in the class. Also on August 2nd, which is Saturday, Devon Benjamin, 4-star cover corner from um, Oaks Christian High School in Southern California. He's committing. And he's, again, maybe the best cover corner in the country in this class. if the Ducks get all three of those guys, well, yes, Mr. Knight and some of the other generous benefactors of the program have committed to making this the year. Uh, I'm hoping for two. Even one would be an achievement because these are, you know, top quality guys pursued by all the best programs in the country. Ohio State is one of the final five for Gerald. So we'll just have to see. But if you would ask me this question again on Saturday, I'd have a more definitive answer.
Well, by the time this posts, everybody, which will be a week from when we're recording this, we're gonna have that answer. So I appreciate that, Dale. All right, I've got one more thing I wanna pass by you. I've had this idea for a year. I've shared it with several Oregon people. They all love the idea. Um, all the Ohio State fans love the idea. I'm not so sure Ryan Day would like the idea, or Mr. Lanning. However, it is worth, I think, considering maybe if you can get in with Phil Knight, you can run this by him. Uh, Ohio State and Oregon are the two largest Nike entities in college football. Of course, Phil Knight in Oregon, and of course, Ohio State sells more Nike merchandise than anybody else for Phil Knight and Nike. Those two programs obviously are both, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, they're joined at the hip through Nike. I would propose that Ohio State and Oregon, with this new rivalry that we have, this budding rivalry that's happening here in the Big Ten between the Midwest and the West, or as some of you like to say, the team out west that the moniker you've adopted. I would like to propose a new rivalry for the conference. Ohio State and Oregon. We call it the Nike Bowl. And every good rivalry needs a good rivalry trophy. But what would make this rivalry trophy more unique than any is, since both schools are Nike schools, following the game, when the coaches walk out and shake hands on the 50-yard line, the losing coach must remove his Nikes and hand them over to the winning coach, who can then dip them in bronze and put them in the trophy case there on the campus as the Nike Bowl champion of that year. What do you think of that, Dale? Please
I,
share my idea with as many people as you can.
I can't wait to write a post about that. That's a hilarious idea and a lot of fun. The battle for the bronze shoes, the swoosh bowl. I mean,
Yes.
it's got all kinds of energy to it and it'd be a lot of fun. Um,
And
the
here's and
one,
here's here's what we could do to make it work, I think, right?
yeah,
Whichever school hosts the game, they collect shoes for donation.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's fantastic. I think we need
yeah.
to make this happen.
To underprivileged kids or low
Yeah.
income people or whatever happened to be. You know, that kind of has some interest to it. It'd be a lot of fun. I mean, it definitely creates some energy. And Lanning and Ryan Day are friends. I mean, as much as two opposing coaches can be friends, they've played golf with each other. At Big Ten Media Days, they both expressed a lot of admiration for each other. I think there's a healthy respect between the two of them. So I love your idea, Eric. I think it has legs.
Well, at least feet.
Yeah. Ooh, I see what you did there. Yeah.
This has been a ton of fun, Dale. Tell everybody where they can follow you and read your work at.
Autzen Zoo, AutzenZoo.com. And on Twitter, what do they call me on Twitter? I got to look it up. I can't remember.
Oh,
Let me see. I'm bringing up my profile here.
that old
I,
X
I
that they got there.
okay. Yeah, it's at Autzen Zoo _bliss. And from those two locations, they can get my Facebook and every other thing. I don't do Instagram and or TikTok. I'm not smart enough for those. But uh, but yeah, I love doing it. I love talking football. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, Dale. This has been a ton of fun. Maybe, hopefully, this season we can do it again at the end of November, beginning of December, as both teams might prepare to travel to Indianapolis to face each other for the third time in the calendar, I guess you could say, in 12 months, or just a little over 12 months. That would be a lot of fun. I look forward to it, and who knows, we might see each other in the playoffs again. I do think that Oregon and Ohio State are two programs that legitimately have an argument to say each and every single year we have a very good chance of getting the college football playoff. That's even at 12. When it comes to 16, I would say it's almost guaranteed.
Well, that's the objective. I'd love to do it anytime, Eric. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you to Dale Bliss from the Autzen Zoo. We appreciate you so much, my friend, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for this preview of your Oregon Ducks here on the OHIO podcast. All right, Chris, it's now our turn to give our predictions for the season for the Ducks. So, without any further ado, we've already brought up the schedule with Dale. It's time for you and I to look at the same schedule. Here we go. Once again, Chris, 10.5 games is what Vegas puts on them. You and I, we're going to split the difference. I got them at 11-1. You have them at 10-2 this season.
I do.
So let's figure out where at in this schedule you and I disagree on that game. And at 10.5, I'm a half a game over, and you're a half a game under for this season. So this ought to be very interesting where this is the difference lies. So let's figure that out. So obviously, starting off here, Chris, game number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 should be all wins.
I agree, 100%.
At Penn State. At Penn State. What do you think?
I like Penn State in this one because it's at Penn State. I think they're a good enough team. They're riding that hype train. They're coming off of a bye week where they're going to be very well rested. And to me, I just feel like this sets up well for Penn State to actually get a win here.
Okay. That means there's one more game on this schedule where you have a loss and I do not. I have them winning the rest of the way because I also have them losing at Beaver Stadium against Penn State in the whiteout on September 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your other loss to?
My other loss is at Washington in the last game of the season.
Really?
Oregon has not played the greatest ball at Washington. If this was at Oregon, 100%. If this is at Autzen, I 100% think this is hands down a Ducks victory. At Washington, I just feel like there is an upset there, and I'm not as high on Washington as what other folks are. But I do feel like this is one where they come in and get the win.
Interesting. You know who's high on Washington?
Washington.
Washington fans. Golly.
And you know what? They should be. They should be high on their team.
Not to the extent that they are, though, man. I've gotten some crazy comments from Washington fans. If we can stay healthy, we're the best team in the Big Ten.
Not even close.
No, you're not.
They're somewhere. I think Washington is somewhere between 6 and 12 in the Big Ten.
They're the second tier. They're trying to get to the second tier, which is currently Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, in my opinion. And by the way, I think one of those teams will get to the college football playoff. One of those three.
Yeah, I know which one it is.
It's Illinois. So
it's Illinois.
I've not shied away from my prediction of them this year. All right, that is our breakdown of the Ducks in 2025. I hope you enjoyed this. We would love to know what you think about what we think down in the comments section below. If you haven't already, please smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel, even if you're a Ducks fan. We would love to have you subscribe to the channel, support us. It would mean the world to us that you would think enough of our content that you would do that. And of course, please leave a comment down in the comment section below. What's your prediction for the Ducks in 2025? We would love to know that. And of course, we want to know what you think about what we think in those comments. Chris, any last thoughts?
No, this is an Oregon team that, Eric, even though the Buckeyes are not on their schedule, don't be surprised if these two teams don't see each other twice this season.
I was about to say on my way out, Oregon, look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis this year. That was about what I was. That was how I was. That's my prediction. So I think Ohio State goes 10-2, 8-1 in the Big Ten. I've got Oregon going 8-1 in the Big Ten, and those two teams playing each other in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. So here we are. We'll see. Next chapter of this rivalry might be written in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We appreciate all of you. We hope you enjoyed this preview. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Chris, you know what to do. OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.